Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. McCray, if you hear us, just get on board here and come on in. Mr. Chris, if you'll take care of him. We always start a meeting out with a moment of silence, for you to have in your thoughts those who are affected by the COVID, and also our children across the world, as we pray for them and so we can find closure to what we're going through. So join me at this time. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And C is to adopt the agenda. Are there any additions to?
There are not.
Okay. So do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
A move to adopt the agenda.
Jerry makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hurd. All in favor? Or okay, Mr. Cheek, you have anything to say about that before we get Mr. Cheek?
No,
I saw his carrying duties up there.
You're good.
Okay, Mr. Kevin, are you out there and ready to roll?
Yep, I'm ready to go. This is my first time using Google Teams, so if I get into any issues, I'll make sure we get Chris online here. And I'm going to give it a try, okay?
Good.
I'm going to present a window here. If you'll let me know if you all can see that, that'd be wonderful.
We can see it.
Good. Want to give you an update of where we're at on the various projects as we go forward here. Anytime you got a question, please feel free to ask, and we'll get to that immediately. Starting off with the middle school project. At the middle school, the exterior door replacement, as you recall, we had an original contract amount. There's not being changes. But one of the things I want to talk to you after I go through this list is that there is a requested change by the district to utilize some Senate bill, some state money that came through from Senate Bill 1, some grant money there for security. And I'll talk about that after I get through this sort of update here on this project. I'll go into that if that's okay. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. Do I need to change something?
Good. I hear you good.
We don't have a copy.
We hear you good.
All right. Looking at where we're at today, the contract has been fully executed. Substantial completion is December 30th of 2020 with the final completion of January 29th. Right now, the contractor had anticipated beginning to mobilize here this week. And right now we're still waiting on framing, but he wanted to go ahead and getting some electrical wiring done and so forth. So that work is progressing. So everything's moving according to plan. No major issues at this time. They've got their schedules, their shop drawings, all that's been reviewed and approved. So we're just moving forward. Now, what we do have that is not for you to act on tonight, but we would be acting on at the next board meeting, actually later this week, is a change order. Now, of course, you all know that a certain amount of contingency is carried in a project for change orders, but this is an owner's requested change order. You all have the opportunity here to utilize some security funds on this project that the funding is coming directly from the state on that is key marked or earmarked for door security and access control and so forth. So what we've done is we got a quote. Brad Abbey has met with the contractor, who is Schiller Hardware, and they've gone through, itemized those door hardware pieces, and came up with a total price of $66,639.77. This is to address various outstanding issues you have with regards to security throughout the building with hardware. And you can see there's quite a listing here of lock sets, cores, deadlocks, privacy, passage, all the way down through. This has been reviewed, and to do this work, you will need to, before you can actually execute the change order, KD will have to review it, and they have to have a revised BG1. Stacy has been working on revising the BG1 to reflect this grant money, so this will be up for your consideration at this next meeting. Are there any questions about the middle school? Mr. Stoll, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it. This is all what we've talked about previously, the opportunity to utilize some funds that aren't general funds for us, that are extra funds, and add it to the existing BG1 so that we don't have to go through that process again, just do the revision and take advantage of that while we have this in place.
The grant is, what's the name of it? I mean, monies.
I'm trying to remember if it was Safe Schools, but there was a restriction on what it could be used for. There were only 5 or 6 things. We had looked at a number of items, and this was the most pressing need that we had that was actually usable for these funds. If we don't utilize it this year, we lose it.
Yeah, this would definitely fall under safe schools.
Yeah.
Further questions, board?
And how much? What's the
60
amount?
$66,639.77, sir.
And that's the grant money that
Yes,
you get? Oh,
yes.
good.
Every district had a certain percentage given out to them according to the size of the district. And I'm not sure what criteria they used, but the number's been varying across the state, and everybody's wanting to access that and use it for this purpose.
Okay.
Okay? All right, I'll move on then. The next project I will talk about is give you an update on the middle school intercom. That project, again, substantial completion was December 30th, and we're nearing that, and the final completion is on the 29th. The contractor mobilized on site on December 7th, and he has been pre-wiring the new intercom system and hanging speakers throughout the middle school. He expects in the next 2 weeks basically to be complete with that and have this job up and running. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully the next time I come to you, it's closeout. Everything's been done.
Good.
So that will take care of the new intercom system. Any questions about that?
No, but thank you for blowing that up so I can read it.
I can blow it up a little larger. There you go. I'm looking at it on a larger screen. I apologize for that.
Oh, that's good. That's better.
The next one, if there's no questions there, we'll talk about is a little bit smaller. Camp Dick. That's probably the most substantial with regards to actual construction. Again, it is December 30th is its substantial completion date. The demolition of the existing sidewalks, if you've gone out there, driven by, you can see all the old sidewalks are gone, all the storm's gone. I saw guys out there the other day. I was driving by, pulled in, took some time to look around, and they were tearing out the old storm drainage. They put the new storm drainage in, all the electrical conduit, all that's been completed to the panel side of the canopy. The footers are actually complete. You can't tell that really when you drive by. And the installation of the columns have begun. So what they're looking at doing in the next 30 days is having this thing done as well. So they'll have the light fixtures in the next 30 days or so here and get all that completed and done. I've got some photographs of the construction. You can see in the photograph here the various column locations, the footings, the new connections for the downspouts. We maintain the existing boots. We're connecting those in. You can kind of see they're laying out the layout points and so forth around there on that building. Here you can also see the foundations going in and some of the stub outs for the storm as it comes across. They went ahead and opted to tear this section out and take advantage of the time where school has been closed down, and they took out, if you recall, we discussed phasing and maybe leaving a portion of that in. they feel comfortable enough in their schedule that they'll still be able to provide access to that point. On site, these should be installed as of today in various locations, but these are the columns and they're pre-finished aluminum. The stub outs you see here at the bottom of these columns right above the base plate, that is all below grade and in concrete. And then what happens is this ties into your storm system. So you don't have any issues with these columns having drainage onto your sidewalk for ice and freezing. A lot of the older style did. You can see here's another shot of those columns out there on site. Any questions that I can answer? Be happy to.
I was just thinking, should we be able to go back in person on January the 4th? Wouldn't hinder students?
Should not hinder you in any way. Even if you went back and the sidewalks weren't poured, they would be required to provide adequate access right there at that main entrance. We're going to recommend they pour that first and get that poured and done. So that's done and we don't have to worry about it. But
Okay.
it's their plans pending weather to be able to have this done and ready.
I'm good.
So it's good news.
Thank you.
No problem. I think it's going along very well. I look forward to the next step. Again, at the board meeting, you'll probably be approving or have up for approval a revised BG1 and this change order for the middle school hardware. Okay.
Thank you. Questions, board? On any project here that we have going? Hey, Kevin, I was looking at these pillars here. How tall is the canopy going to be?
The canopy is 13 feet to the underside of the canopy, which is what we discussed with the buses.
Okay. Query's not on yet, so we can move on to family care update. Mr. Stoll?
Sure. One of the things that was asked at the last board meeting was that we do some updates on a few items. And one of those that you asked about was the new nursing program that we've added this year. And clearly one of the things that I have to share with you is this is the most unique year to try to add something like that when it comes to providing nursing service. So what we'll share with you tonight is that the company has hired 4 of the 5 nurses, and the only one that has not been hired at this point is Paint Lick. They've tried on a number of occasions and have not completed that yet. We've been fortunate in the fact that we don't have school in session right now, and it hasn't been as critical. They have already been setting up a number of programs for us to support the work that's going on, and we have a lot to learn about how we can utilize them to their fullest extent with items like physicals, flu shots, things of that nature. So we're continuing to learn. In the past, we may have used a different organization, so we're learning that process. We look forward to a situation where we're back in school and we're able to utilize them to their fullest extent, and look forward to next year hopefully being a normal year and discovering the benefits of having them as part of the system. So as you know, they're no longer our employees, but Mr. Gresham serves as the contact point. So if we have questions with the organization itself, he'll make contact and we follow up. And they've been supportive in the idea of any individuals that we've encouraged to apply for that job to be considered for those positions.
Any comments from the board? If not, go on to the next item. 4 is recommendation and discussion of proposed 2022 school calendar.
So Mr. Boland is on with us. So if you have questions about that, I wanted to give you a little context of what we're doing here today. Went back to review the board policy. The board policy requires 2 board meetings to review the school calendar. It does not require 2 actions by the board. What it requires is in the first meeting, for us to have a recommendation and a discussion with you all about the proposed calendar. And then in the second meeting to actually adopt the calendar. So what we want to do this week is discuss it with you today, give you an opportunity to review it. It's available online. I'll pull it up here in just a second as well, so you can take a look at it. And then on Thursday night, we'll ask you to approve that. We are basing this year's calendar on KRS 158.0702F. And in that area, I've copied that for you there so that you can see it. So beginning with the 2018-2019 year, each school board had the opportunity, and will have the opportunity until it's changed, to adopt a calendar that allows us to look at hours and not just days. And that was based on us not starting any earlier than the Monday closest to August 26th. So we looked at the calendar, came up with what we thought would be a good one. And in all honesty, we've learned some things this year through the calendar process, and we've adapted some of next year's calendar based on this current year's calendar. And I'll try to show that to you as I pull it up for you on the screen. I'll try to make it as large as I can so that you can take a look at it. So the calendar that we're proposing right now actually begins with students on the 24th of August. And that 24th would be, like we did this year, again, a learning opportunity for us. We brought in Kinder 6 and 9 on one day by themselves so that they had an opportunity to explore and learn the school, an environment that they hadn't been in before. And our staff liked it so much, our community seemed to like it so much that we want to do that again this coming year. So COVID has taught us something in a positive way there, so we'll take that for sure. So the actual start for everyone else would be on the 25th. We have a plan for what we'll do on the 24th with those who are not in kinder, 6th or 9th grade. Then the rest of that calendar looks somewhat traditional to you. You'll see that we have Labor Day off, that you have fall break the first week of October, the normal November where we're off for election, and then for the Thanksgiving break. You see the Christmas break that mimics this year where there's 2 weeks plus 1 day coming back in January. There's a day built into February in case things run long. Another day built into March. Spring break, the first full week of April. Those recommendations came from the calendar committee. When Mr. Boland met with them, those were the recommendations. We wanted to adhere to those. So what this gives you is 165 student days, 186 teacher days. Those 186 teacher days accommodate everything that we're supposed to accommodate, which would be 4 holidays, 4 PD days, 2 opening and closing days, and then the additional days that we'll use as teacher work days. If you'll notice at the beginning of the calendar, starting on the 12th of August, we have a number of what we can call blue or purple days. And that gives us an opportunity to have the staff in to do any preparation that we need before. Most of you will remember when you had a teacher in for 1 day and an opening day before the start of school, that made things very, very tight. So this gives them the opportunity to take a look and work with their principals, their leadership, other members of their staff to be prepared for that first day of school with students. And we hope that what we're talking about next year is regular school, nothing outside of the norm for us. So that's what we would be looking at. So this calendar mimics the calendar that we're currently on. So I'll be happy to answer any questions or refer it back to Mr. Boland. He's on. You can see him right now. He can answer any of the questions based on the feedback that he had from the calendar committee.
Or do you have any questions?
I was wondering the thought process that came about as getting out on the as late as it seems that we're getting out in May. I don't know. I just wondering what's the possibilities and maybe, or what the thought process was starting as late as we were in August and then pushing it back to the latter part of May to get out.
You want to go, or you want to take it?
Sure, I'll take it. So where we are, Mr. Hurt or Coach Hurt, where we have started with the variable instructional school year, we had to start there in the last week. And with that, we had to go with our hours. So hours for us is 1,062 hours, which meant we had to go 165 school days for students. So with that being said, when we put all of our normal breaks with Christmas break, spring break, and fall break, it ended up pushing us back to where our last school day would be May 25th. Now, we did do a survey. We did a survey with the community, and we put that out there for the teachers, the students, and the community. And overwhelmingly, they all wanted fall break and spring break. And overwhelmingly, they all wanted the opportunity to have their breaks whenever they could, from the January to spring break. As we all know, from in a normal year, January, February, and March gets to be a really long haul for kids and teachers. And so they were all trying to fit as many breaks as we could. And so we took our common breaks, and where they fell, tried to mimic the last few years' calendar. And that's how we ended up coming up with the last day for the 165, came out on May 25th.
And I guess where I was coming from was there consideration given to teachers and in-service starting maybe a week before and starting school on the 16th, a week before it is right now, and then getting out a week earlier? I'm just trying to rationalize this.
So one of the things that we put on the survey was, one of the things that we've heard many from looking back to the other surveys in the years previous is that parents really like for a later start date for our folks. They enjoy that time with their families. And so on that survey, it came back overwhelmingly that they wanted it as late as possible. And so we had put out on the first two times that we put it out there for them was the 4th, the 11th, and the 18th. Well, our calendar committee decided that the 4th was not an option for us. They just didn't felt like that was way too early. So we put out the 11th and the 18th for the community to vote on. And overwhelmingly, it was the 18th. At that time, we were unaware that the option that it would really help us to take the variable instructional school year calendar. So once we looked at that and we saw the benefits to where we could bank our time, I contacted the committee and we went back over the options that we had. And from that particular point, we were able to decide that was the best for our district this particular year.
Well, I appreciate the information. It helps me kind of get a handle on the reasoning behind it.
So if I can share one last thing, if you move the date back to starting, let's say, on the 18th, you lose the capability of basing the year solely on hours. So moving it 5 days back doesn't mean you would get out 5 days earlier. As a matter of fact, if you started it 5 days earlier, if my calculations are right, Mr. Boland, you can tell me if I'm wrong, we'd still end on the same day.
We do.
The way it's structured. So you would start earlier and still end at the same time. So taking advantage of the flexible calendar that was generated about 3 years ago gave us the ability to give the parents the idea, give the parents the ability to have a school later, but still not press us into June to get a completion. So that's kind of how that piece of the puzzle has worked out.
And when they put the KRS in place for us, that was what the intent was to give us a little more flexibility and not be strapped to the 170 days that they normally mandate. And we were able to go on hours, which would reduce us 6 instructional days because of we go to school longer minutes than minimized each and every year.
Makes sense to me. I just was trying to get a handle on it. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
It's a good question.
Welcome, Mr. McQuarrie. Can you hear me? Mr. McQuarrie?
Can you hear me, McQuarrie?
No, not really very clearly. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
We can't.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good.
Okay. Maybe it's the mask that's muffling you, Chairman Woods.
I have a question, Mr. Bowen. What's our extended day? We're about 25 minutes over a 6-hour day. Is that the way I calculated it here?
Yes, sir. We go 300. So schools are indifferent, but 4 of our schools go 385 minutes, and one school, which is middle school, goes 390. You can't go over 420, but so we're well underneath that. But we are right now at 385. Now, with that being said, we are looking to push all of those schools to 390. So we'd be finding 5 more minutes to be consistent across the district.
Very good.
It makes sense.
The only other question I have is from KDE. What kind of guidance are they giving local districts concerning NTI days? Because I know we were kind of basically on NTI, but.
So at this point, we don't anticipate that next year that it'll be unlimited. We think it'll probably drop back to the 10. And our hope is that we never have to have more than 10. And we'd like to utilize distance if we have to have a snow day when we possibly can. That was one of the other benefits that we were hoping to have happen with this calendar, was that we could identify the start time and the end time and not have it switch a whole lot. As most of you know, when you have a calendar, you run the significant risk during the year for the high school to never know when they're going to graduate. And if we could get to a much closer date for graduation, that's beneficial to not only our staff, but to seniors and their families. You have people coming in from distances, being able to prepare for that. So that's what we envision. They haven't given us a definitive answer yet. As you know, this year it's unlimited again, and we'll see what happens with that next year, but we don't anticipate that it will continue to be unlimited.
Okay.
Mr. Woods, if you don't mind me saying real quick, I also would like to thank our calendar committee. With the calendar committee, we had teachers, we had representatives as parents, and we had community members that were on there, as well as a principal, and Ms. Perry from central office and Mr. McQuarrie from the Board of Education. So we're very appreciative of that, and we're very appreciative of all the folks in the community that took time to read our survey and to give us their thoughts. We were thankful for all the input.
Okay, very good. Okay, Mr. Stowe, we are ready to move into regular board agenda items.
So I'm pulling up the agenda for you right now. You should be able to see it on the screen. And again, I'll blow it up as much as I can to make it as easy for everyone to see. So as you know, we'll always start just like we did today with moment of silence, pledge to the flag, and an adoption of the agenda. We'll do our recognitions of the teacher of the month and the students of the month, but that will be done virtually. They will not be in the building with us, so we are working to make sure that they have the recognition that you would want them to have, but it will not be in person. We have SBDM minutes from October for all 5 of the schools for you all to review. At this time, there's been no request from anyone in the community to speak. Obviously, you all have your opportunity to speak as board members, and then I will share 3 items with you. The first one that I'll share with you, number 1, we have no new hires since November. We have only 1 resignation since November, so you can see those and we can share that with you. And then item number 3 is sharing a needs assessment that we've put together that complies with board policy 04.1 AP.1. We've met with all of the principals and their leadership teams to gather information from the schools. We've met with IT, we've met with maintenance, and we've put together a synthesized needs assessment for you. We'll give you the demographics of the district as they stand right now. We'll walk you through the summarization of the needs, and then we'll give you a look at our financial situation and let you see what the cost would be to do what everybody was asking for and what our limits are. And unfortunately, as all of you know, our limits will be greater than our needs. And so it will require some prioritization This is not a budget meeting by any stretch of the imagination. It's to give you information to look at as we prepare for budgeting season, as we come up to that. So rather than give you 5 reports that you would have to go through and try to synthesize, we're adhering to the board policy that says we're supposed to do that for you. And next year, we hope to give it to you in November as opposed to December. But we feel like we're going to be able to give you something to look at on Thursday that will give you some really clear thinking. It is posted. You're welcome to jump in and look at it. If you have any trouble seeing it and you want it in advance and you ask me, I'll be glad to get that for you so that you can review it and know exactly what's going on. But that's what the plans are for that particular report. So any questions about that, happy to address. The next area that we'll jump into then is the treasurer's report. I'm going to jump out of this for a second so I can go back and pull the treasurer's report up for you. To do that, I have to go to the other meeting, so I apologize. But Stacy, if you would like to speak to that as I pull up the agenda, or pull up your report, please feel free.
Okay. Ending November 30th, our cash balance is 8.8 million. When we compare this to November of last year, we're up by about $2 million. If you look at the chart where it compares the 2 years, you will see that the largest variance there is for general fund, where we're up about 1.4 million. So if we look at each fund individually, we'll see that the general fund has a cash balance of 5.8 million. And as I just said, it's up by approximately 1.4 when compared to last year. We did receive our first property tax payment in November, which was 2.5 million. And that's actually up about 200,000 when compared to last year. There were 6 payrolls through the month of November 30th, 2020, when we compare that to 7 last year. So a typical payroll runs about $700,000. So that makes up part of that variance. You'll notice that our special revenue fund is a negative $152,000. And as I've stated before, federal grants are in this makeup and they have to be spent before they're received. So, and this balance fluctuates each month. Our district activity fund has a balance of $254,000. There was minimal change in this compared to last year. Our student activity fund has a balance of $302,000. We were not required to present this last year, so that's why there's such a large variance. And the student activity fund, that's the money that is held in the school's bank accounts that we have to show as a district now. Our capital outlay fund has a balance of $112,000, which is unchanged from the last month. We expect our second allocation in the coming months. Our building fund has a balance of $906,000, and building funds can be used for debt service and building needs. We deposited $1.5 million this month for our first for our property tax. The first 1.5 had to go to our building fund. Our construction fund balance is $713,000, and funds of $403,000 were transferred in from the capital outlay and building funds for our 3 current projects we have. Our debt service fund is a 0 balance. Year to date, debt service payments equals $1.3 million. Our food service cash balance is $758,000, which is down approximately $92,000 when compared to last year, which coincides with our spend down plan of our excess balance. Our community education fund is $6,000 with minimal activity. And our trust fund cash balance is $79,000, which is very comparable to this time last year.
Where's that money that she's talking about?
So Mr. Woods is asking the question, we'll share this with you. In December, the state announced that they were going to switch some of the SEEK funding and replace it with COVID funding or CARES Act funding. So next month you will see that probably looks a little different too, because we'll have to use Fund 2 more than normal because of what's happening. So across the state, $130 million was removed from SEEK and was replaced by the CARES Act money that the state had. It's a net gain and a net loss for us. We didn't make any money with that move. We didn't lose any money. That's the same for every district in the state. What it did require was our staff, led by Stacy, to come up with a plan to utilize those funds that we got, I believe, on December the 4th and December the 7th by the end of the month. If we didn't use them by the end of this month, we would have been losing those funds. So they did allow us to go retroactive, and we have come up with a plan. I say we. Stacy has come up with a plan on how to utilize those funds to make sure that there's no loss of revenue for us. There is no gain for us either, but it will look a little bit different next month because we'll be using funds in a different way. So you don't see it yet because this was November. We were notified of it at the very beginning of December. The money hit almost immediately, and then we had to come up with a plan to spend that down. Do you need to say anything else about that, Stacy, or do you think that covers it?
No, I think that got it.
So the question I've got is, back earlier, we were giving reports that we were going to receive SARS money.
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
But they just washed it out, is what they did. Is that the way I'm hearing it?
No, they didn't really wash it out. I think what this really comes down to, if you'll remember back in the fall, there was an expectation that KDE was going to have to cut several $1 million from the budget.
I understand.
And that we were notified that there was money available that kept them from having to make that cut. I believe what you hear now, as we look back, was that this was this money.
Okay.
And so in effect, there was probably a cut, but it was offset by that money. That was money that was never forwarded to us, that stayed at the state level, and we didn't have any control of it. KDE didn't have any control of it. So when it was released at the very beginning of December, it replaced SEEK dollars. We've asked questions about whether those SEEK dollars are going to come back to us. We received information today from Josh Bray, our representative, who suggests that he does not believe that money will come back. So that makes it look like it was an offset for a cut that didn't happen, but did happen. This didn't impact the money that we received for the COVID experience. What we also did not get is FEMA money, which was another situation. And fortunately for us, we had maintained some of our gears and some of our CARES Act money to offset what would have been replaced by FEMA. And at this point, we've heard nothing that suggests that that's going to change either. So we're okay. We haven't put ourselves in a bad spot. We're okay, but there's not going to be a plus for us either.
Other questions? Okay. Mr. Scott, we'll move on.
So this coming month, we're starting something new with our fiscal agent. They have agreed to send to you on a monthly basis your bonding potential. And most of you know that bonding potential can change pretty quickly. So what they will be doing for us is providing a monthly update right before the board meeting that will tell you Garrard County's bonding potential at this point is this amount of money. At this point last year, you were probably about $12 million less bondable than you are now. But because the interest rates are so low and because the add of the third nickel for you, you have a whole lot more money available than you've ever had. Having said that, should interest rates go back up, the bonding potential will decline as well. So their update will keep you pretty well up to speed on what you can and can't plan to do with any of the bondable dollars that are there. So we see this as a really positive piece. And again, it's available to you for review, and we'll make sure that you But we'll talk about it again on Thursday. Any comments or
So are you
questions about
going
that?
to give the report, or will they be coming to? the board?
No, we'll have it. It's just a two-liner. It's a really small thing. It will tell you, well, here, let's pull it up real quick and let you go ahead and see it tonight. Nothing that you couldn't see on your own. What this will show you is what your bonding was on 12/2 versus 11/17. So what they will give us on each reoccurring month is this information to let you see what it is. So your bonding capacity right now is at 28 million. Halfway through last month, it was 27.5. You'll notice the only thing that's really different about that is the interest rate. So as the interest rate moves, so will your bonding potential. And that's what they're going to provide for you on a monthly basis, which I think will be good information.
Yes. Pretty good.
We appreciate them doing that for you. You receive bills each week, but as part of the process, we have to include that on the agenda. It doesn't require an action on your part. The other two reports that you've asked for that we'll have for you, and I've posted them to the KSBA site so that you can see them in advance, is a report on the ROTC and a report on Gifted and Talented. So those individuals leading those programs will share that information with you on Thursday. Your consent agenda is approving previous minutes. They're attached for you to review. If I've seen you in person, I've provided those to you so that you can review them, and we'll approve the treasurer's report that State shared with you just a few minutes ago. And we'll move into the action agenda items. The first item will be approving the board attorney for 2021. Posted to the site, and it's private at this point, is a list of the attorneys who responded to the RFP and a summary of that, and all of the information that they provided. And so I would encourage you to look through that. Again, if you've seen me face to face, you have that hard copy. If you haven't, and you need us to print that for you, we're happy to do that, not a problem. But it would be in I believe the board's best interest to make a decision on that on Thursday night. To keep you from having to have any lapse in service. We'll ask you to approve or revise BG1 all the way back to your energy savings project. There was an issue that came up with that. It's not a cost issue for you. It's just a revision that has to occur. And it's posted for you to see should you need it. Mr. Cheek mentioned the next one, and we do not have it posted yet because we're still finalizing it. And that's the revised BG1 for the Garrard Middle School door project. That's the extra money that we have coming in to do the interior as opposed to just the exterior. We'll ask you to approve a BG5 to close out the Garrard Middle School roof project from a couple of years ago. And that will put us in a spot where we should start seeing some residual money coming back to the district for that. If you'll remember, you did a BG4 for this last month and a BG5 on, I believe, the Camp Dick roof last month. Then we have two pay applications, one for the middle school exterior door project with Schiller and one for the CDR canopy. Mr. Cheek shared with you the look without the supports and the columns. The columns are in for the most part by last Friday. So if you drive by by CDR and go back and look, you're able to see what it's going to look like without the top yet, but the height that you were asking about, Mr. Wilson. We'll then ask you to approve the calendar that we just walked through a minute ago, and I have attached for you the calendar and the board policy on the process that we're going through. So if you have any questions about it, it will be there. And then the final approval that we'll ask for is the agreement between Garrard County Schools and Parks and Rec League. If you'll remember, we talked about that. So we've put that agreement together. It's posted for you to review in advance. If you see anything that you want to add or change, let me know, and we can make that adjustment for you. Following your approval, then we'll take that to the city for their signature and make sure everything's good to go for them. That will be it.
Are all of the variables that we talked about last month that are correct?
I believe so. I don't think that there's anything that we've left out, but that's why we want you to review it and make sure that if you feel like there was something that we neglected, It includes the capacity, it includes the dates, it includes the wearing of masks, it includes the cleaning, it includes them accepting responsibility for any damage that would occur. It limits the times that are available. It doesn't allow them to make any decisions without talking to principals or district and school leaders in order to make sure that it doesn't have any negative impact on any of our processes moving forward.
What school person is going to supervise this? You or Brad or principals? Or?
So those that are in the schools, we will have the principals make sure that it fits their schedules, and here at GEC, we'll make sure we're responsible for that. It does say in there on numerous places that if they fail to adhere to the expectations, it will lead to the cessation of the agreement.
Board members, you have any comments, questions for Mr. Stahl?
Is that updated agreement with the wording you just talked about, is it on the portal?
It is.
Okay.
Okay, further questions? Okay, looks like we're ready to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. McQuarrie, and second.
Second.
Who was that, Mr. Brother Jerry?
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments before we leave? All right, all in favor? Raise your hand. I see 5, okay. We're adjourned. Thank you.